Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Three Men and a Movie. This week, we're not going to be talking about a movie at all. We're actually talking about a television show. It's actually a 6-part miniseries called Waco that you can find on the Paramount Network, Channel 241, if you're in the LA area and have DirecTV. And I'm sure you can find it otherwise online or stream it or download the episodes if you have any other service. But this is a straight-up recommendation, being that you are not going to the movie theater for it. There is no need necessarily to pay for it, although you should seek it out because it is quality television. In the past 10-15 years, TV has really stepped up their game with good shows that you can actually find some depth in. Sometimes they're even better than some of the movies that you can find in the theater. So, here's information about Waco if you're not familiar with the story itself. In 1993, there was a 51-day siege on a compound in Waco, Texas. This compound was led by a self-proclaimed messenger of God named David Koresh, who ran what he called a religion or a religious group that the rest of the country either called a cult or a religious sect. Now, there are some debates there of whether or not they were a cult, but ultimately they were being run, and in what you will see in the show, and if you remember the news story, manipulated by this great con man, yet also a very knowledgeable a man about religion and about Christianity named David Koresh. The name of the group was the Branch Davidians, and everyone in the compound that lived in the Waco, Texas compound sort of surrendered their life and their being to not only God, but David Koresh, who was the messenger of God. So once he convinced his whole group of that, then they were pretty much under his tutelage, and anything that David said, it went. So you'll get to see that in this 6-part miniseries. The beauty of the show is that you get closure and you get it quickly. You could even binge watch 6 episodes. It's easy. People binge watch 8, 12, 13 episode series. But with 6 episodes, an hour apiece, you can definitely do it in one sitting if you are so inclined. So now some of the production information on the show. The show is based on 2 books. One book is written by a survivor of the Waco siege, whose name was David Thibodeau, and you actually get to see that character within the show, who is masterfully played by Rory Culkin, which is, I believe, the youngest of the Culkin brothers, who is an actor. You might remember him as a child actor in the movie Signs, which is, by the way, one of my favorites, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But yeah, Rory Culkin does an amazing job of playing this Thibodeau character, and you really feel for him. Another book that was also used as research and as the information for the show was a book written by a man named Gary. And this man named Gary was actually the FBI negotiator, who on the show is played by Michael Shannon. So I know in episodes before I mentioned Michael Shannon, how he masterfully plays villains in most of his films. But, and if you saw Shape of Water, you also saw him playing the villain in Shape of Water, which he did an awesome job for it. And, I don't know what happened with the nomination there, Academy, but whatever. We're talking about Waco, so we'll come back. Michael Shannon actually doesn't play a villain on this show. Actually, you will sort of maybe side with Michael Shannon's Gary character on the show. So without spoiling too much for those of you who have not seen it, there is sort of a 2-part parallel story. You've got the information that we're getting from the FBI and ATF side of the story, where they're actually in charge of coming into the Waco compound and bringing everyone out. And inside you have David Koresh and also Thibodeau, who is telling the story from his point of view and everything that he saw within the Branch Davidian compound. Now, the show does reveal a lot of information that we did not quite get from the media back in '93. I was about 12 years old when the whole thing happened, so there's a lot of information that might have been revealed when the thing was happening, but all I can remember is the final siege on the compound, which is what most people can remember, where the tanks from the ATF and the FBI come in and destroy the compound, and bursts into flames, and a lot of people died. So that I get the information correctly, I'm going to look at my notes real quick. 76 people total died in that siege, and the heart-wrenching part and the really damaging part while I watched the TV series is that 21 children actually passed away in that siege, which is incredible and amazing and just horrible to watch. I know that television is supposed to be entertainment and even a sort of a sense of escapism, but once you start watching the show and start putting pieces together and start understanding that this David Koresh character, even though he did do some despicable things, and you will find out in detail of the things that he did do and even the crimes that he committed within the compound with his members of his religious sect, you also can tell that he was actually a very interesting, charismatic guy, a very talented guy. He was a great musician, and he actually plays some music on the show. And the main character, David Koresh, is played by Taylor Kitsch, who is also one of the executive producers alongside with Michael Shannon. He actually learned how to play guitar in order to portray this character, and he also learned a large part of the Bible in order to be able to quote scripture. So you can tell that there was a lot of dedication and a lot of depth to this show. Taylor Kitsch, in an interview in a show that, by the way, you should go and check out, called Off Camera with Sam Jones on the Audience Network, he was talking about how he was so involved within this character and learning who this character was and becoming this character that he almost quit production of the show because he felt like he was starting to empathize and sympathize with the guy, even after knowing all of the horrible things he did. But because he did have, like most people have, many dimensions to him, and he had such a deep and emotional human side to him, and an interesting guy to play, and an interesting character, an interesting human being, that he started to side with him, and it was just a little too much for him to take. Now, you might think, oh, that's baloney, but an actor who's really into their craft will actually become a character, and we've heard it plenty of times before with, let's say, the Heath Ledger Joker character, that he really did dive completely in head first into that character and had some trouble letting go, and you'll hear that from time to time from different actors. So Taylor Kitsch did a masterful job on this. If you're really looking for compelling television, this is one show that you should definitely watch. Highest seal of approval from myself, and if you read reviews and if you look around online and things like that, you will find that the majority of the reviews are positive for the show, because it does do a really good job of, one, entertaining you, giving you compelling television, but also at the same time hurting your feelings big time, especially if you're a parent and seeing what a lot of the children inside of there had to go. And there's a lot of interconnected relationships with all the wives that David Koresh had and all of that, and a lot of the children that David Koresh fathered within the compound. So you're going to have a lot of mixed feelings about what you see. If you want to feel something, if you want to really enjoy something, you have to also be able to connect, empathize, and sympathize on some senses and some level, and you will with the show Waco. So, full seal of approval recommendation on the show. Go check it out. Let us know in the comments what you think. And as always, this has been another edition of Three Men, and this time, a TV show.